Newsweek, September 9th, 2021, Fauci was untruthful to Congress about Wuhan lab research, new documents appear to show. Senator Rand Paul held up a document that outright said gain-of-function research was performed and funded through the United States, through EcoHealth Alliance, through HHS, under Fauci. And he said it didn't happen and they didn't do it. Why would this man be pardoned? I mean, here's what I don't understand. Fauci was Donald Trump's advisor. During COVID, Donald Trump brought him on TV every step of the way and defended it, much to the chagrin of his supporters and many libertarians. After he got out of office, sure, there was a little bit of back and forth, but why would Trump politically retaliate against the guy he chose to be his advisor to make him look bad? I think the reality is Joe Biden is protecting Fauci from willful crimes that Fauci committed.
Yeah. So something about that is, so the pardon, you admit that you're guilty. It's an admission of guilt, essentially, and that goes back to verdict 1915. And essentially what that says is you cannot be compelled to accept a pardon, because if you are, then that violates your right to not self-incriminate yourself. However, this pardon for Fauci says this is not an admission of guilt. So that directly violates the verdict ruling for SCOTUS.
Wait, the actual text?
The actual thing says he's not.
The actual
text of it says this is not an admission of guilt. You could find it and look it up. Yeah, it says that he's not. It's not saying he's guilty. I don't know if the other ones. I know Fauci said that. I don't know if the other ones did.
The lawlessness of this president.
As a Democrat on the panel, let me just say this about Dr. Fauci, just so you folks have a slightly opposing or differing point of view. Look, sure. He's dedicated his whole life to public service. The guy could have gotten rich. He helped George W. Bush with PEPFAR, which in my view was one of the great achievements of America under President George Bush, where we saved millions of people in Africa for AIDS. And Fauci, in my view, whether he was right or wrong, largely was acting in the public interest. I don't think we should be. And one of the things I give Trump credit for is Operation Warp Speed, which Fauci was also involved in, which was giving government procurement guarantees so we could develop the vaccine. It's mind-boggling to me that Trump has not bragged about that more. To me, that was his singular best thing that he did in terms of working on the vaccine cures that we did for the world and for humanity. So my view is, whether you agree or disagree with Fauci, do you really want to create a criminal standard for people in public service who are coming and doing what they think is
if they committed crimes?
Well, if he lied to Congress, it's lying to Congress.
You know how many people come to our committees and you want to put them all in jail?
Yes. And how many times do they say, I can't recall? If Anthony Fauci had said, I can't recall, instead of full stop, we don't fund gain of function research, we would be having a totally different discussion right now.
This is one of the worst ramifications of the impeachment of Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton was found to have lied to Congress, and it was he admitted it later, and nothing happened, and that was a terrible precedent to set.
I believe I have it's from justice.gov, executive grant of clemency, Joseph R. Biden Jr., Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, a full and unconditional pardon. It does not say it's not admission of guilt. His statement said that on the White House website, saying that accepting this is not an admission of guilt.
Yes,
but that's his personal statement. That's not the case.
Okay.
I do recognize a lot of people lie to Congress, and that's the point of swearing them in. They shouldn't. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people commit perjury all the time. And the aggrieved parties will always complain about it, and it's very difficult to prove someone lied. So that I recognize. In this instance, Rand Paul held up the document that said gain of function, and Fauci lied and said, nope. Yeah. And he's pretty right.
So Fauci accepted the pardon, that is an admission of guilt, and then he said in a personal statement, I'm not guilty?
He did say that?
Yeah, that's his personal statement then.
Yeah.
Yes. So how does that work? Like, does he think he keeps his Fifth Amendment?
I guess legally he confessed.
Honest question. So these pardons go back to January 1st, 2014.
A quick question. Yeah. What was going on in Ukraine in 2014?
I wonder. Burisma?
But to your point about moving on, right? Just like the Jay said, wouldn't we want to move on from Fauci? I mean, isn't that part of Trump? I mean, he said today he doesn't want any retribution. He wants to move on. He doesn't want to politicize things. Isn't that part of what we need to do as a country?
So sometimes we need to resolve. The problem with COVID in general is that peeled the Band-Aid off of the way that a lot of our elite institutions are abusing their power over people. And so one of the things, be it school closures, and then you have this big focus on looking at education and trying to figure out, having parental rights, trying to balance these different issues. And suddenly you have a former governor of Virginia running for governor again, coming out and saying that he doesn't want parents deciding what their kids learn in school. And over again, you see, and, I'm glad to be sitting with you, Ro, because I think you have a track record of standing against some of the worst abuses I've seen from your party and the elites who generally agree with it. But I think a lot of the corruption that we've seen in this country was unveiled in COVID, and we have to solve it. And that's why we have a big populist movement. That's why we had a populist movement on the left too, with Bernie Sanders. But one of the things I really focus on in my book is how these big donors are funding these initiatives that are pushing, all these nonprofits are pushing ideas that are being almost forced on the American people through the elite apparatus.
There, I agree with you sometimes, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I said sometimes my staff, they send me their 200 groups who've come out for something, and I said they're 200 groups run by 100 people. This is
Exactly.
the biggest myth in terms of all these groups. So I agree with you that sometimes they can make us be out of touch on certain issues.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.